who's the first Sharks player to be moved off the team?
I hope it's Blackwood.
Yeah.
Because I think it's just a testament to all the hard work that he's put in. You should be the first guy that everybody's looking at to make their team better. This guy deserves the opportunity to really play for a cup here.
I feel like he deserves to be a starter for a contending team. If he went to Colorado, I think he absolutely would outplay everyone there.
You're adamant
But their goaltending has been garbage. Okay, who needs a goalie right now?
Yeah.
That's a contender. They're absolutely up there as a contender, and I think Blackwood could take them back to the top level in the West Conference. I would be happy with a second-round pick.
Really?
Yeah, because they traded a sixth round for Blackwood. That's a heck of a return, right?
Yeah.
Your asset management is turning a sixth-round pick into a second-round pick. What I really would want is a second-round pick and a prospect.
Yes.
I'd want the prospect too.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Fin Factor. I'm Paul.
And I'm Aaron.
This is episode number 229, and Aaron, we just opened the show a little differently. We opened with one of our YouTube shorts that was from the previous show. Now remind me, today is Tuesday, and we did that show, was it Sunday? Sunday night. And obviously, we're back. What happened, right? Unless you're living under a rock. Mackenzie Blackwood did, in fact, get traded to the Colorado Avalanche, as Aaron has been, again, adamant about that would be the team. I saw that they had grabbed Kakinen. I saw that they traded for Wedgwood. And I know Georgiev didn't really have the faith of the Colorado Brass, but I guess to me it was like, well, they've got all these goalies. Why would they trade and grab another goaltender on top of that? But it kind of makes sense when you're throwing one of those goalies back the other way now, which for some reason I wasn't thinking of. But yes, we got it right. We nailed it on this one, to the point that we said not just a second would be okay with you, because I wanted the first. You said a second and a prospect, and if you watch the bottom of that clip with the split screen there, when he says second, I'm going, because I know you're about to say I want that prospect, and yes, I agree. So yeah, second and a prospect, which essentially that's kind of the bulk of the trade, right? So Go ahead.
Well, we have the graphic of the trade, the official trade here. It was Mackenzie Blackwood going to Colorado along with Givani Smith and a 2027 fifth-round pick, I believe. Yeah. That was going to Colorado, and coming back to the Sharks was Alexander Georgiev and Nikolai Kovalenko, along with the 2026 second-round draft pick. So not this upcoming draft, but the one after, and then a 2025 fifth-round draft pick, which is conditional. So essentially they swap fifth-round draft picks in 2 different years. Sharks gain a second-round draft pick in 2 years, and then Kovalenko as the prospect, if you will, and Georgiev also coming back. Now, I do have here from Puckpedia kind of a look at the draft picks right now. I'm sure this will be changed before the actual draft comes to. Oh, this is the actual trade from Puckpedia. That shows the net. What do you call it? Salary cap going down for the Sharks by $670K, going up for Colorado, and then what's interesting is which is pretty cool. I like how Puckpedia does this. They value draft picks, so they give you a calculated value of how valuable is this draft pick compared. So, for instance, is it on here? Can't even read it. Net draft pick value. The Sharks go up by 5.71. That means nothing to anybody, right? You don't know what any of that value means, but it's. I'm pulling up the Sharks' actual pick value. So their total pick value just for 2025 is 77.44. So it went up. Actually, that one didn't go up. Next year is 80.57. Right. So it's up about 5 points from this year. But they do have 2 second-rounders now in the 2026 draft. Mm-hmm. They still have their first-round pick. They have their first-round pick for the next 3 seasons, which is fantastic. So the Sharks are going to be adding some good players. What I like about Greer, what I feel like the old regime did, is they loaded up on a lot of later round draft picks, hoping to hit a gem in the rough, right? Like another Pavelski in the 7th round, which is so rare. But they did the shotgun method. We'll trade you. What was the Joe Will special? A 5th or 6th round for 2 7th rounds, something like that, right? They had so many 7th round draft picks.
Like a 5th for 2 7ths. That was the Joe Will special,
right?
Yeah.
I feel like Greer's going the other way. He accumulates more first, second. He doesn't do a lot of 3rd rounds. A lot of 3rd rounds get sent away, but a lot of 4th round picks.
So he's kind of getting this first, I don't know, what is that, 200 players or 150 players, trying to get somewhere in that spot.
To be fair on that one, though, the Joe Will special, right, the 5th for 2 sevens, in the Doug Wilson regime, they didn't have those higher end picks, right, and they didn't have the assets that they wanted to trade away, right? So they were taking the little assets that they had and trying to add just more of them. So the difference between a 5th and a 7th, not that big in terms of the player that you're going to get back. So why not, again, use the shotgun method there and see if you could hit on one of them. Mike Greer had some players that had value and was trading them to get these guys. So, yeah, he's going to be able to get more than just a couple of 7s for a guy like Mackenzie Blackwood. Yeah. I just wanted to be fair on that one, that it's kind of working with what you have. And Mike Greer, regardless, Mike Greer doing a fantastic job of working with what he's got here. So what other thing here did you want to talk about in terms of that graphic, or was there something that you wanted to say specifically here?
We'll talk about Mackenzie Blackwood. I have a Blue Sky post from Darren Stevens here. This one, since 2009-10, when the stat was first tracked, Mackenzie Blackwood received the fewest goals and support per game at 2.08. That is just pathetic. And that's the fewest support in game of any Sharks goalie with a minimum of 60 games of the team. Since shots were faced per 60 were tracked in 91-92, Blackwood's 33.7 were the third most, again, minimum of 60 games, behind only Jeff Hackett of the second season, first season of the Sharks, and Capo Kakinen at 34.2, who was just above him. So the Sharks, we knew the Sharks were bad last season. The last 5 seasons have been bad. Last season was obviously historically worst, almost as bad, if not worse, than the original first 2 seasons. So he's not in great company there for a good stat. But Blackwood, and what I read about semi-recently, he does very well with high volume of shots. So he's going to a team that does not give up that many shots compared to the Sharks. Nobody gives up as many as the Sharks. But I looked up this stat, and I think they were 20th in giving up shots against. Colorado was. So this will be a chance for him to shine, to see if he can be on a contending team, have a good team in front of him, that if he can perform and do well. And I think this hurt him in not getting picked for the Four Nations Cup, which Greer had even talked about. But do you have something?
I read the same thing, that unfortunately where he's at and not playing in these high not high danger situations. He was in high danger situations all season long. That's not what I mean. But the games that really matter, right? Because with the San Jose Sharks, everybody kind of knows they're not going to be playoff bound. So what are you playing for exactly, right? And in these situations where a win really does make the difference for this team, how does he respond to that? Those higher pressure games, right, where they actually have some sort of a meaning to them. So they're saying that because the pressure is kind of off in San Jose, that may have, as you said, hurt him to get chosen for the Four Nations, the Canadian goalie for the Four Nations tournament there. So, honestly, whatever, the whole Four Nations thing, throw that to the side. The main thing for Mackenzie Blackwood is I'm happy for him because he's finally getting that opportunity, as I said in the clip there, to play for a Stanley Cup with a team that deserves his services. Now, maybe they won't be allowing as many shots on goal as the Sharks do, and maybe he thrives more in a situation where he has to stop a lot of pucks. He has to feel a lot of pucks. Maybe he thrives in those situations better than if he's only seeing 20 pucks a night and kind of gets a little bit cold. We'll have to see how it works out for him in Colorado. But again, for my whole part on this, I'm just happy for the guy because that's exactly what I wanted for him. I just wanted him to get that opportunity to play for a team that really does have a shot and to help lead that team to get there.
Yeah, it's funny. I think it was JD on Blue Sky was asking for a mailbag question, and I asked this maybe half an hour to an hour before this trade was announced. Okay. I said, do you think Mackenzie Blackwood has done enough to warrant a first-round draft pick as capital coming back for a trade? And then this trade happens because the second-round pick. Now, I think a lot of people were upset thinking that it wasn't enough for Mackenzie Blackwood, and people also didn't understand why the Sharks in the first place would even trade Mackenzie Blackwood.
Right.
Now, Shang Peng of San Jose Hockey Now actually got to interview Mike Greer, and apparently it's an exclusive. So if you are not a subscriber to San Jose Hockey Now, and we are subscribers, but we are not sponsored by them by any means. But he's got some really good quotes here that I wanted to read about Mike Grier, about the whole situation of why this even went down.
So all these quotes, but hat tip to
Yes.
Sheng Peng and all. Yeah, we just want to get that out of the way first. Yeah.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
This trade was something too good for Grier to pass up, which sounds very similar to what he said for the Hurdle trade.
Yeah.
Very similar also that it was very hard to trade Hurdle. He named that as one of his hardest trades that he had to do, trading Hurdle and then trading Blackwood. Him and Blackwood go back to when he was in New Jersey, so he knew him from a long time, and one of the reasons why he went after Blackwood when he became the San Jose GM. So this is what he said. It's kind of still in the stages of where we are. We look back historically in returns for goalies and in the season. Sorry, this is about getting a second-round pick.
Right.
There's only 2 guys that have ever gotten a second-round pick, and both of them were coming off of Vezina seasons, I believe, in Fleury and Robin Lehner. It was a return that we thought we couldn't pass up. It's probably a little earlier than I would have envisioned doing it, but the return, it's a good return of 2 draft picks as we continue to build. Now, a lot of people were saying, why now? Right? The Sharks were kind of getting on a roll. They look like Blackwood especially was looking really good. We've been talking about him for weeks now. Why trade him now? Colorado has, like, I think we talked about this 2 or 3 shows ago, maybe even longer ago. They were in hurt, and I remember saying by Thanksgiving something's going to change, right? Or what are we, 2 weeks after Thanksgiving? Not too long after. And they finally made a trade. First, they made a trade for Wedgwood out of Nashville. And I was like, kind of like, that's weird because Wedgwood's not a starter. So that's kind of weird. So then they went after and they got Blackwood. So they changed both of their goalies that were starting the season are now gone in, what are we, 25 games into the season, right? That's banana. I mean, it's good work for Joe Sakic to completely swap out the goaltending, and that was probably, I would say, their Achilles heel. I mean, their defense has not been great.
Right.
Defensively have not been great. Offensively, they've been fine, and they've been outscoring their problems. But what we've seen all year from Blackwood and last year, he gives the Sharks a chance to win almost every night.
Yes.
He's making big saves and keeping it close. Like, granted, he's letting in goals, but a lot of times he's left high and dry. But he's making big-time saves at the same time. So I'm very excited to see what he could do in Colorado because I believe that he would be the answer for them, especially for this season. And he's going to be a UFA after this season.
Yeah, it's not like they're getting a goaltender who's used to having good defense in front of them and used to seeing only a certain amount of shots per night, right? And used to not having to deal with high-danger situations. They're getting a guy coming from one of the worst teams in the league who is outplayed, and we'll talk about this, outplayed his ability for negotiations and a contract, right? That's how good he was with the San Jose Sharks. And, of course, Colorado sees this and says, this is exactly what we need. And even if we don't get better defensively in front of him, we've seen what he can do with a team that isn't good defensively necessarily, like the San Jose Sharks. Facing 50-some shots and letting in only 3 goals, I mean, that for Colorado, a team that can score a lot of goals when they're on their game, that shouldn't bother them too much, right? If you can limit the 50 shots down to 40 and you can outscore 3 goals, then I think you're in a good situation having Blackwood between the pipes there.
Absolutely. Yeah. Some questions here. Taylor Kearney just said there was always a plan. However, I wouldn't have minded if they decided to have a Askarov and Blackwood tandem. Interesting, you should say that. So, getting into more of what Grier had talked about. It sounds like, if you read kind of between the leaves here, Grier was trying to do an extension with Blackwood and his agent. And it sounded like they were asking for both longer term than what Grier wanted to do, and more money. And you already have Askarov in the wings, already signed to a one-way deal next season. Not going to do that to Askarov again, right? That he just went through in Nashville. Askarov is the man in San Jose. Blackwood does not want to be. I think Blackwood deserves to be a starter, so I don't blame him or his agent to eventually going into free agency this summer, which I think is what their plan is. So here is what, it's funny you should say that, here is what Grier also had to say, continuing in that article. In my view, he's probably outplayed the goalies that made that Four Nations team, which is what I had mentioned.
Right.
Speaking with his agent and everything, what he's going to be looking for and what he's rightfully earned as a UFA to make. I hope he gets what he's looking for. I think he kind of played his way out of probably the ballpark figure of what we were looking for, especially with Askarov coming up there as well. He's going to want some term. He hadn't had some term, and he's going to want some money. It's his first chance to make money, and every player, if they get to that point where they can be unrestricted, that's up to them, and it's more power to them. They should try and earn as much money as they can, coming from a former player.
A former player, yeah.
He's earned this. He's played really well for us 2 years. Hopefully goes there and plays really well.
You know what? Not just a former player, a former not superstar player.
Yes.
Who fought for money, right? A
Yes.
grinder. So, yeah, anyway, go ahead, continue.
Well, that was it for the quote. But he is going into free agency. He is, unless he knocks it out with Colorado and they want to keep him, he's going to go to free agency. Even if he wins a cup, coming off of a cup, you are going to be the man going into free agency as a goalie, showing everyone that you're on the big stage and you can make it happen, right? If he, I'm rooting for him. I'm rooting for Colorado.
I am too.
I mean, I'm also rooting for Carolina again because of Brent Burns. I want Brent Burns to get a ring. But a Colorado-Carolina final, I think, would be fantastic with both of those teams that are kind of offensive juggernauts. But going back to Blackwood, he's definitely earned it. It sounds like Greer wanted to extend him, but I don't blame him. I don't blame Blackwood for wanting to not sign an extension and to go to free agency because this is his one chance at 28 years old.
Yeah.
Probably the peak for a goalie to get that big contract of his career. It'll probably be the biggest contract of his career.
Yeah.
So he has a lot to play for going in to Colorado, and not just his next contract, but to show and prove everyone that he is a good goalie on a good team, not a good goalie on a bad team only.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's hard. I know the Sharks fans, they see players that they like and they see players that play well, and they go, well, why wouldn't we want to keep this guy? And frankly, again, like Aaron just said, that's exactly why, is because he played so well that the Sharks wouldn't be able to afford him. Even if he were to say, you know what, I would like to do an extension with you guys. You still have Askarov in the wings, like you said. We don't want to push him farther away from the franchise and get him unhappy because he's supposed to be the future of this franchise, right? So, again, just a great opportunity for Blackwood. I am going to be rooting for Colorado over anybody else right now because I love what he did for the team. And I really want to see him do well elsewhere. So so that's Mackenzie Blackwood. That's the whole thing that happened with him. Now, in return on this trade, we talked about a few things that are coming back. One being Georgiev, who even just like a handful of years ago was seen in a much better light around the NHL. Frankly, and Randy Hahn had said this too. The past 2 seasons, not counting the current one, the past 2 seasons, no goalie in the NHL had more wins than Georgiev. Now, you were quick to tell me that, yes, he was playing on a good team, and that's part of the whole reason why. Absolutely. But even, I think I had it amongst goalies that played at least 40 games across that span. He was still, like, third when it came to save percentage, and I think, or no, not save percentage, it was games played. He was, like, 30. So he played a ton of games.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, okay, so he's got a good team in front of him, but he's still getting worked a lot, right? His save percentage actually in those years was still better than what they are currently for this season. So really, it seems like just these first 20 some odd games of the season, he's been really bad. So if we can maybe just look at this as maybe Georgiev is still a good goalie, okay? But maybe he just had a bad start to the season, got into his own head, and now he's able to come into the San Jose Sharks roster where there's a whole lot less pressure in terms of where they're supposed to land in the standings. Maybe he could just take a deep breath and get back to being him. And wouldn't it be fantastic if he does that and the Sharks trade him?
That's what I'm hoping for.
Wouldn't that be fantastic?
I'm hoping less pressure
in
San Jose versus Colorado. So the losses are going to pile up regardless. So you kind of play a little looser, I think, and you're not gripping your stick or your gloves so tight, I guess, if that's a thing for goalies. I think I'm hopeful that both him and Vanacek could get moved by the deadline, one or the other, or both. So it'll be interesting to see if anyone even comes back, like as a goalie.
Aaron doesn't even want a team anymore. He just ship everyone off.
Well, Askarov is ready. I think he's NHL ready. I don't mind him staying in the minors for this season because the Sharks are not going to be going anywhere. Right. So let him win and lead the Barracuda as a leader on that team. I wouldn't be surprised, if he does stay down there all season, which I think it sounds like that was the plan. Again, something Greer kind of mentioned. So I think people might be scared that Askarov would want to leave if he's not on the Sharks. I think that's kind of where the fear is.
Yeah.
The way he left
Nashville, they're afraid he's going to pull something similar and want to get out of San Jose. That's not the case. He knows the plan, and they're upfront with the plan about him. And he signed a one-way contract already, an extension next year, starting next year for 2 more years. So he knows he's a starter. He knows this season's probably done, and the Sharks are going to be much better next season. I do think you are into something, though. I think what they're hoping for is to trade him again, possibly. Now, the Avalanche, I forgot to mention, did retain salary on him as well. So his salary was a lot higher. It was like 3 point something, and now it's like just under $3 million. So that's a little bit more palpable for a team. Now, Georgiev, his history, he was a backup to Shesterkin in the Rangers organization. That's where he got started. Also where Barclay Goodrow played with him for a season. Mike Greer was in the New York Rangers front office for a little while, so he's very familiar with him. But that season when he was a free agent, he was I want to say he was the most sought after goalie because his stats were so good when he was in New York. Granted, a good team again, and Colorado ended up winning the sweepstakes, the free agent sweepstakes. So he started 62 games in the last 2 seasons back to back for Colorado. That's a lot of games.
Yeah.
He had 40 wins the first year, 38 the next year, and then this year he started 17 games. He was 8-7. His first season he had a .919 save percentage.
Real quick, you said this year he's 8-7, right?
Right.
I mean that's still better, like over 50%. That's better than what the Sharks were doing.
But
right?
his save percentage is .874.
Okay.
He's just.
You know what, Colorado?
Something's changed, and he needs fixing.
You know what, Colorado
Spear is the fixer.
What I was going to say, that's what Colorado doesn't have. That's what New Jersey Devils didn't have.
Exactly.
With Spear. And I think that he has been making a great impact on these goalies. You got a guy like Blackwood who played the way that he played this season, and just even the seasons prior in New Jersey, you didn't. We traded a 6th to get this guy.
Yes.
A 6th. Right?
The asset management has been fantastic by Greer once again, turning a 6th into a 2nd. By 2 years, 3 years, 2 years.
He turned a 6th into a 2nd and a prospect.
Yes,
and then the other goalie coming back anyway, who we can flip for something else maybe down the road here. We'll see.
Yeah, but he's something needs to be fixed. So I think he's come to the right place. I think Spear is the goalie whisperer in the NHL.
To the fixer.
If he could fix Vanacek too,
yeah,
he's going to be golden. This guy's going to be very sought after by other NHL teams. He might get poached.
Might have to pay him more than the goalie.
I'm glad they kept him. Yeah. Remember there was when Warsofsky came over, they weren't sure if they're going to keep Spear or not, and I'm glad they did. Anyway, going back to this, so that's Georgiev. I'm not expecting a whole lot from him. He's basically going to be a 1A and 1B with Vanacek, I think, going forward. He was there tonight. He got there late, I think. He missed the warm-ups or the morning skate, so they had some delays. Him and Kovalenko, I think, both missed the morning skate. But Kovalenko was able to suit up. He suited up as the backup for tonight. And I thought Vanacek played decent tonight. He looked better. I mean, he's gave up 5 goals in the last 2 games. So for him to only give up 3, I thought... Improvement, right? Yeah, it's getting there. But I'm curious to see how Georgiev will do. And again, this season, I mean, again, I still don't think the Sharks are going to be tanking compared to last season. They're not going to be the bottom 3 team. They're not going to be. They'll be in the lottery, top 10 or bottom 10, however you want to say it. But I don't think they're going to be bottom 3.
So I was hoping like they'd be close to the bubble, but taking Blackwood out of the equation this early in the season. This early. If it was closer to trade deadline, maybe. But taking him out this early,
I bet that's what warranted the 2nd round pick. Getting him so early versus waiting till the deadline. Now, some people said he could have gotten more if he waited, like at the deadline, right? Maybe. But you're taking the gamble that Blackwood could get hurt. Colorado's taking the gamble. They need the help now. So they're going to kind of... I think it was fair. I don't think any team got fleeced. I thought it was fair for both teams. There's not always a winner and a loser of every trade. I think it's a win-win for both.
It goes back to what Doug Wilson said. You're not in a trade just to get one over on the other guy. You're in a trade to try to make it work and benefit both sides. And in this case, it's exactly what this trade did. Okay, so Colorado gets their guy in Mackenzie Blackwood. Fantastic goaltender this season, right? And even last season, right? Fantastic goaltender, right? They get him for their cup run because they think that's what they need more than anything else. Awesome. They give up things that they don't really care about. One, their goaltender that they had a problem with in the first place. Happy to let him go, right? They have no problem moving him. No problem. If they go to deep into the playoffs, do they care about their second? Well, their second's for not this coming
next season.
Next season anyway.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, by the way, I did see this, that I can't remember who it was in Colorado, it was probably second, but he said, I'd be lying if I said that we were only thinking about keeping him for the next however many months, like 4 months or whatever.
Blackwood?
It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they're definitely talking about,
I'm sure.
we're going to extend this guy like
Yeah.
right away, right? But essentially.
They'll probably give him a trial run, want to see what he does for
Yeah.
the next month or two, and then decide about
then
extending.
pay him.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and again, what the Sharks got in return, again, this is what they wanted, right? They wanted the prospect in Kovalenko. They wanted the pick, so they get the second round pick. And I think everybody's happy in this situation. It's one of those trades that works out well for everyone. And you can look back later on and go, oh, they got fleeced or whatever, right? And, hindsight's 20/20. But at the same time, right now in the moment, I think both sides are happy. There are times where you make a trade because you have to, and you're not really happy with the return. Like, you can say what you want, but I'm pretty sure the Timo Meier trade, man, I kind of wish I got a little bit more out of that, Now you're like, oh, yeah, that was great. That was a fantastic trade. But in the moment, a lot of people going, well, I'm not really happy with it,
Because New Jersey had such high-end prospects that
Sure.
the Sharks did not get, and everyone was kind of like, Mook Madulin, really? So I think that's why they're upset. But I think the reason he went after Mook Madulin is he got other pieces like Zetterland, and he got the draft pick that ended up being Musty.
Yeah.
And another draft pick that I think was the one that got traded so that they could get Dickinson. I think that was the New Jersey one.
They moved
traded,
up,
right?
yeah.
So that's a lot of pieces for Timo Meier, and I am very happy with how that worked out.
But see, again, you're happy with how it worked out. Hindsight, right? But I'm saying in the moment, a lot of people were going, we gave him up for that? Really? That's all we got? But I think in this trade, even just day one, both sides were like, yeah, I'm good with that, Yeah, we would like to keep Blackwood, but it wouldn't have made sense anyway. I think the return was plenty good.
Yeah, I think they need someone. Blackwood to me is a starter on a team.
Yeah.
So to go with Askarov, and I don't know if Askarov would be ready to get 50, 60 games in his first season. I think he's going to have to get split at least for one season so he can get used to the NHL and the speed and everything. Then I think so. Maybe what I'm thinking is his backup, basically, right? It would probably be 2 starts to 1 start to start his first season. Then after that, it would go 3 starts to 1 start for the backup, unless there's back-to-backs. Basically, that's how it would work out. So it would need to be somebody that you could rely on if he gets hurt, Askarov gets hurt, but also not be better than Askarov and take over the starting position. So it's kind of a tricky thing, but it will be Askarov's crease starting next season, if not the end of this season.
Grandizer making up lies here. He said, Paul said we got fleeced, heard it here first. I never said such a thing. You watch your mouth.
You don't think we got fleeced?
No, not at all. I think it's a fair trade. I prefer to have the first, obviously, because again, I'm pretty sure Colorado's going to go deep in that. It's going to be a 30th pick, right?
Right.
As opposed to like a 60 something, right? I'd rather not.
But they don't have
all
a
the way
first
out
round
there.
pick this year.
Do it next year, buddy.
Yeah,
you know
still,
what I'm saying?
I don't
But now there's again the thing that we had talked about. We'd be happy if we got the second and the prospect, right? And we got the prospect. So what do we know about Kovalenko here, right?
His dad was a former NHL player.
That's why the name sounded familiar.
Yes,
yeah.
he played for the Avalanche. He played for the Nordiques, and then when they moved to Avalanche, he was there. He bounced around a little bit. He played for the Hurricanes when they had moved from Hartford to Carolina. And it's funny because this is
birthplace.
what
His birthplace.
Nikolai Kovalenko was born in North Carolina, so because his dad was playing for the Carolina Hurricanes. So it's kind of cool. He did play in the KHL. So it's kind of funny. He was drafted in, I think it was 2018, and he played in the KHL, and he did pretty well in the KHL. So I think he was there for 2 seasons at least. In fact, I think I saw Graham is in the comments here, so I'm sure he can attest to it. But he's going to be a top 9 guy, and he's got skill and hard work and some speed, right?
Yeah.
Is that what you heard about him?
So, yeah, my understanding, and Graham, please feel free to correct any of this or give us what you know in the chat there. We'll certainly be able to read that one off for you and let everybody kind of get that information straight from the horse's mouth here. But, it sounded like you kind of called him a grinder, and I could see where that might come from. Because he does like to get into those areas where you want to be a little bit heavier, right? He's got that kind of Luke Cunningham garbage collector attribute to him. At the same time, certainly it seems like he's got, what I've read at least, and what I saw tonight's game, speed with the puck. He's not your prototypical grinder that's kind of got stone hands and is just there to smack bodies around and park it in front of the net. It seems like he's one of these guys that can actually move the puck, not just a good passing ability, which is another attribute of his apparently, but he can stick handle fairly well at speed. So I think, and he's 25, right? I believe he's 25 years old.
Yeah,
I mean, if that's
25.
the case, age-wise, he works with this group really well.
He just turned 25 in October, so he's...
And this is his first season in the NHL. I think they said
Correct.
he played 2 games in Colorado for playoffs last season or something. But other than that, this is, he's debuting here. So I think in, what was it, 24, 28 games, something like that, he had like 8 points, 4 goals, 4 assists. And he wasn't getting that much playing time. And he's probably playing behind some of these guys that were, top tier, like a Nathan McKinnon. Now, again, they had injury issues. And he got an opportunity now and then to play with some of those guys. But that's kind of the versatility that he can bring after he gets maybe a couple years longer in the tooth here.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, is one of these guys that you can plug in up and down the lineup, top 2 lines for injuries.
Greer loves those
I
kinds
know
of guys.
it. I know it. You know what's funny about this guy, though?
Yeah.
5'10", 180 pounds.
Yeah.
This is not one of Greer's typical size-wise guys.
6'4"
But in
plus.
terms of the grit and
Yes.
going to the hard places and still having some level of skill set alongside all of that, it seems like, again, one of Greer's guys.
And a quote again from Greer from the article.
Right.
Shark staff scouted him last year, and Greer had talks with him. He said, "We had talks about him with Colorado last year." So when the Sharks were trading or in trade talks with Colorado last year, Kovalenko was brought up as somebody.
Yes.
Because at that point, he was still in the KHL. He wasn't even over in the U.S. playing in the NHL for the Avalanche yet. So he was somebody that has been on the radar. Now, Graham just answered. He was drafted back in 2018, so I don't really know much about him, to be honest. Grandizer has a good question here, though. Paul and Aaron, what do you know about Kovalenko, which we just went into?
Yeah.
Part of the long-time future, a future trade piece, or just a player thrown in for the trade? I do think he's a prospect and a guy that they like because they've been talking about him for over a year and wanted him on the Sharks even maybe not over a year, but last trade deadline.
I think he's a guy that Greer actually does like. It's not just a throw-in, as was maybe suggested there. I think he actually does like this guy. Like you said, they talked about him from before. And again, the way that he plays the game, right, I feel like is in that the DNA of the group that Greer is trying to build. You can't have all Jeeps, right?
Yeah.
They can't all be Jeeps. But maybe you have a Jeep with a turbo on it, right? That wouldn't be so bad. Maybe that's what this guy is. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
and then you got the high skill guys like the Eklunds and the Macklins. But even then, those guys are a little grindy at times too.
Who was on Macklin's line tonight?
Was it Eklund again?
No, who else?
Was Zetterlund? No.
Cunnin
was.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Because Cunnin scored a couple of goals.
2
That's
goals.
Right. Yeah, 2 goals
tonight.
today.
You put anyone on that line, doesn't matter
We
who.
don't have the garbage collector slide.
Right, but it doesn't matter who is my point, right?
Yeah.
So we need what I think a lot of teams do now is they'll pair up a center with a left winger, and then that right winger is just interchangeable. So they'll keep those pairs together.
Okay.
I mean, tonight I guess it was Eklund, so they haven't really. No, when they started the game, it was the Eklund, Zetterlund, Granlund line. They kept that together. Then it was Celebrini with. Oh
Eklund.
man. Oh sorry, no. Eklund
No.
was on the top line. I just said with Granlund and.
Oh, you're
and
saying
Zetterlund.
as the second line for the beginning of the game.
Beginning of the game,
Gotcha.
Celebrini was playing with Cunnin, and I'm blanking on who. Toffoli?
Okay.
Maybe it's Toffoli.
Yeah, Toffoli.
Toffoli and Cunnin. Very different players. None of those players are like one another,
You
right?
could put him with anybody.
Right.
Doesn't matter.
But
Yeah.
that's my point. Is Celebrini makes everyone better.
Don't forget, he played on the line with Barclay Goodrow. So like
Exactly. But Barkley didn't score.
No,
Cunnin
that's true.
did. So
That's true.
I bet you Cunnin's going to start on his line again next game. It worked. He got 2 goals.
I think you give Macklin and Eklund to Kovalenko and see how he does.
Well, I'm sure they'll
Who
mix
knows?
it up. They'll mix it up and
You know?
figure it out. But yeah, Greer had also, I didn't put this down, but Greer had described Kovalenko as a north-south player, which they don't have a lot of north-south players. So a different kind of, again, not grinder is not the right word,
Right.
but a different hardworking player with a skill set. So not a guy who will be regularly in the top 6, but definitely on that third line. Probably just no power play time, just a third scoring line. One of those guys that come playoff time, those are going to be your playoff heroes, like Barclay Goodrow was for the Sharks years ago, right? Those are the kinds of players that you need to fill out your roster with going into becoming a contending playoff team. So I don't mind this at all.
And I think him being 25,
yes,
right? By the time we're there, he could very realistically still be a part of the team. Whereas a guy like Barclay Goodrow, and I know you're going to say Nico Sturm, and I'm going to reach across his desk and smack you. But yeah, a guy like that, who's a little bit, more veteran than
I'm shocked Nico wasn't going back to Colorado in this trade.
Honestly, that would have just made it that much sweeter for me to say I'm rooting for Colorado.
I mean, maybe he does later.
Later.
Towards the trade deadline. Maybe. You never know. Yeah. In fact, that was a question here. Where was it? CJ, how many more moves do you think the Sharks will make before the deadline?
God. Granlund.
You think before the deadline?
I think unless Granlund says, you know what, I believe in the future of this, and if you'll have me around, I'll stay.
I wouldn't not say that would happen. Like, I think that's a possibility that
you wouldn't not. So you would say it would happen.
I think that's definitely a possibility of him signing an extension. I just think $5 million is a little too much.
Yeah.
I don't know. I could be wrong.
Although he is a point per game player, that's kind of cheap if you think about how much he's bringing to the table.
I mean, I wouldn't not disagree with you. So figure that one out, people.
Just a lot of words.
Too much.
It's a word salad.
Okay.
First word salad of the night, not the last.
Definitely not the last. Okay. What else do we want to say about this trade here? I mean, is there anything else that you want to break apart? I think we pretty much nailed it.
I do.
Now, here's my other question, though. Why the fifths? Why swapping of the fifths?
That one's kind of funky because the fifth that the Sharks gave is... I got to look back because I'm forgetting on the year, but...
it's 2027.
The Sharks gave a 2027 fifth round.
Yes.
There it is.
There you go. Okay.
And they're getting back a 25 fifth round, which is this upcoming draft. Now, I guess you're hoping that in 2 years you're in the standings.
Like you're giving it away that at that point in 2027 the Colorado Avalanche I guess they didn't swap that
pick.
They didn't
swap the
But
you're hoping that your fifth is more like a sixth?
But
what does it matter?
But
right?
imagine the Avalanche finish 25th. So it's a 25th pick in the fifth round.
Right.
But the Sharks go a lot deeper and it's worth less because it's a later pick. That's my only thinking. I don't know.
The only thing I can think of is they just want to see if they can get like a hit earlier while the team is still super young, and that's the only reason I could think of.
Maybe Joe Sakic just wanted a fifth round pick in there, and Greer was like, "Well, I'm not doing that without your fifth round pick." I don't know.
Or maybe Joe Will just wants to be able to do his Joe Will special this year, and 2 years from now, who cares?
I'm looking at Colorado's picks for the next 3 years.
Yeah.
They don't have a fifth round pick because they just gave it away. They have 2 next year and 2 in 2027.
Hold on, Malachi says that pick could turn a fourth round if terms are met.
Oh, it was conditional. I didn't know what the conditions were.
I didn't catch that it was conditional, Malachi. Yeah. Oh, it says right there. Look at super producer Jason.
Yeah, but I don't know what the conditions were.
The condition is apparently it'll turn to a fourth if some condition is met. Don't not think about too hard on that one.
Yes.
Oh, lovely.
It's a good thing we don't have certain people in the chat tonight because we would get roasted.
Right.
Anyway, okay. I mean, that's basically it. Unless there was anything else you wanted to say about that.
No, I did have a tweet here from Corey Masasek, friend of the show, Corey Masasek. He's now the beat writer in Colorado for, I think it's the Denver Post. The Avs have completely overhauled their goaltending depth chart in 10 days. First team to trade both opening night guys before Christmas in NHL history. It was a swift, decisive, bold, risky, and costly. It could save the season and change legacies. It's true. It's kind of a gamble. I mean, you're changing out both guys that started on your roster in goal on opening night, which is just crazy. So,
can you read Grandizer's second to last one there? Yeah, there you go. Can you read that up?
Paul and Aaron read this from an Avs fan, or read this from an Avs fan. Avs fan here. Kovalenko is a bulldog and has top 6 potential for sure. He hits, scores, and can pass. You all love him playing in the Pacific, son of an NHLer, which we talked about. He also said Georgiev has great reflexes, good bridge goalie for San Jose. So there you go. Oh, Graham just posted there were 3 conditions.
Oh
Gosh, for a fifth
Here we go.
rounder.
Here we go.
Three
Okay.
conditions for a fifth rounder. Two of which need to be met. One, Colorado needs to make the Western Conference Finals. Two, Blackwood wins 25 regular season games. Three, Blackwood starts 30 regular season games, which I think he'll get that one.
Yeah.
He'll start 30. I wonder if that's...
Wait. The wins 25, is that including the ones
know.
with the Sharks?
I don't know.
I'm asking Graham. Is that 25 including the ones that the Sharks have already... he's already got with the Sharks?
Right, and plus the 30. Like, does that count?
Yeah. Okay.
I'm going to guess no. I don't know.
Anyway, okay, so those are the conditions. Thank you guys for that. And yes, why? For a fifth to turn into a fourth? Why?
That seems like a lot of work for a fifth to a fourth. Maybe a second to a first I could see.
So, okay,
But-
at least now we understand why the fifth swap made sense. Because there's
25
a
wins
on it.
with Colorado.
With Colorado. Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you, Graham. Appreciate that, buddy. Yeah, it's too much. Too much going on for too little that's going to end up happening there, realistically. So, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like the GMs just do this just because they're testing out, well, what kind of conditions could we add into this thing just
Who's
to see.
paying attention?
Just to make it fun,
Right.
you know? Yeah, kind of like the show. Just to make it fun.
Right.
Let's do something silly. Whatever.
Crazy.
Okay.
Shakir Moukmadulin
Yes.
was called up, by the way. I don't know if you
Yes.
saw that. He was called up to the Sharks. We talked about him. I can't remember if it was last week or the week before. He was hurt. He started the season hurt and then was playing for the Barracuda, but he wasn't lighting it up like he was last season with the Barracuda. Probably because he was maybe getting back into game shape. Who knows? This will be interesting, though.
Does this transaction mean anything to you? Are you looking into this and going, someone's getting traded or something?
Maybe not
Something's
traded.
happening.
Something's happening because Jack Thompson, it says Jack Thompson is no longer listed on the Sharks NHL roster, which makes sense that Moukmadulin was called up.
Okay.
It's indicating that he was reassigned to San Jose, but there was no announcement about it. That's what's weird.
Okay.
Usually there's almost always an announcement of somebody got called up, someone get down. So,
Malachi's feeling very optimistic here. He says, all I know is Greer robbed the Avs. So.
Yeah.
Hey, man, I mean, I hope that is the case. That would be fantastic. As of right now, I feel like it was a fair trade. But who knows, in a couple weeks, months, or years, we'll look back on this and say, yeah,
we'll have to know
did
in 2
extremely
seasons of who they draft with that draft pick, or even use that draft pick to jump up at some point in that draft.
It doesn't matter who we draft. The fact that you get that draft capital, you
Yes.
do whatever you end up doing with it. Again,
Yes.
hindsight is 20/20 on who you pick, but the fact that we got that.
You
Good.
take it, you spend a 6th-round pick, you invest, what was it, $6 million that you paid Blackwood, and turn that into a 2nd-rounder in 2 seasons.
And Kovalenko.
And Kovalenko,
Yeah.
correct.
And you still get a Georgiev project
So, I mean,
that Coach
sounds-
Spear might be able to flip and turn into something
Right.
else too. So
Does
there's
this-
a lot coming back.
Does it sound like Kovalenko is almost like another Zetterlund type player?
It sounded like he doesn't have the ceiling that Zetterlund has. Still has, by the way. Zetterlund's still
Right.
on the rise. But it sounds like he's not quite the player that Zetterlund could be. Or he's not quite going to be the player that Zetterlund would be. Not. But essentially in that realm, if you will. Sort of in that realm. So put him just a little bit below Zetterlund in terms of the depth chart, in terms of skill set and whatnot.
Okay.
But again, no problem with the Sharks eventually having a third-line scoring group that's a little bit heavier and harder to play against. Again,
Right.
I'm talking about a guy that's 5'10", 180 pounds when I say heavier and harder to play against, but apparently that's his game.
I mean, don't forget, next summer is that big free agency year. The cap is going to go up significantly compared to the last 6 seasons because escrow is paid off. If you don't really understand what that means, at the end of each season, the players and the owners split the profits 50-50. Now, if more went to the players put money into an escrow account and then they pay the owners back. And if vice versa, if the owners made more money, it goes to the players. For the last, since COVID, the owners paid more out of their pockets, and so players had to pay them back. They finally paid it off going into this season, which is the first time, that they're even going into next year. And with all the TV contracts with ESPN and everything else, the salary cap is going to jump a big amount here. So there's going to be more spending. Player salaries are going to go up a tick higher than they have been. And the Sharks are in a very good position, and there's a lot of free agents. Now, a lot of free agents and a lot of agents, smart agents, knew that this summer was going to be the summer to get paid big time.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's why there's a number of really high-end talent that is going into free agency starting this summer because their agents were pretty darn smart.
They structured their extensions to be 2 years.
Exactly.
3 years so that they would land here.
Yes.
Okay, interesting.
I mean, there was a couple, and I can't remember offhand, but I remember there's a couple that they signed a deal, but instead of signing like the 7 or 8 year deal that they could have done, they signed like a 4-year deal or 6-year deal. And they're like, why? And they're like, oh, it's that free agent that season or whatever, because they're going to want one more big paycheck before the end of their career. Yeah. So a lot of those guys are going to be in their late 20s, early 30s, basically looking for one more big contract. Now, I don't think the Sharks are going to be giving out
every penny, by the way.
Just
saying.
Anyway, my point is, we're talking about the top 9 now, right? Rounding out that third line. We're going to be adding in, I think the Sharks will be adding some high-end talent next summer into that group. Plus, we have some very up-and-coming prospects that will be joining. Dickinson's one. Yeah. Now, I think the back end is where they really need the help, not so much the forward group anymore. I think the forward group is looking pretty good for the future, at least, with Musty coming in, a couple other guys. So the defense, and I don't even think it's the offensive defenseman that we need. It's because Dickinson's going to be good. He's not. I don't know if he'll be ready next season for the NHL, but he will be there eventually, and he's going to be probably the number 1 stud there. It's interesting to see what's going to happen this upcoming draft and where they pick, but I'm assuming they're going to pick another defensive stud similar to Dickinson.
Yeah, see, and I hear that a lot, that the Sharks don't have good defensive prospects, but you take a look and you go, you got Dickinson there, you've got Kenyoni, that's still, again, undersized, but as you said last show, he proves everybody wrong every level he's at, right? Mook Medulin just got a call up. And then these guys that we just grabbed, like Jack Thompson, Lil Jagrin, these are not exactly old guys, right? And you are going to want some of these veterans on your blue line. You're not going to want a whole bunch of 20-something-year-olds, right? So I can definitely see a handful of those guys making it and then going into free agency and finding these other guys that are these defensive defensemen stalwarts that are going to be more like those Marc-Edouard Vlasic types, which frankly, I think this team right now, if they had 2 guys that were like prime Vlasic, one guy that's prime Vlasic and one more guy that was just steady, right? Mm-hmm. If they had 2 guys like that on this team right now and they didn't trade Blackwood, I think that we'd be looking at a different situation for the Sharks. We'd probably have quite a few more wins than we already do, I think. And again, I think you're right. I think we do have good offensive defensemen in terms of prospects. Mm-hmm. I think the only thing we really are missing are those big, hard to play against, defense first, get the heck out of my crease type guys. Yeah. And we get a couple of those guys, and in a few years, this team's going to look real complete.
I mean, look at what the jump was from last season to this season in terms of compete, in terms of roster turnover, how many guys left that are no longer here that were here last year, and the guys that are here now that are competing every night. I mean, how many times have we talked about this season alone, the Sharks coming back from a lot of games. Even tonight we saw they almost came back against the Carolina Hurricanes. They kind of blew that game. Like, I think they could have and should have won tonight the way that they're playing. But it's Carolina's a top team in the East, if not the top team. So, but they hung in there with them 3-2. It's not bad. So, but my point, compared to last season, there was a big jump. I think next season we're going to see another big jump and possibly, like I keep saying, a playoff bubble team next year. But I do think they're about 1 or 2 of those defensive stalwarts away. Yeah. And that's it.
And I imagine those guys are not that difficult to get, like on the free agent market. I think there's a premium paid for offense, right? And the guys that are really good defensively kind of get like passed over just a little bit, right? Yeah. So they don't command as much money because they're not putting points on the board. I think preventing goals is as important or more so than being able to score goals here and there. So yeah, I would absolutely love to see this team pick up 1 or 2 real good defensive either prospects, or to hell with it, just get veterans in there, right? And let the prospects be the offensive guys.
Yeah. You said the magic word Vlasic.
So, oh boy.
Malachi just said, I think we're waiting to dump Vlasic. We're not dumping Vlasic. They're letting him play it out because they actually need his salary to make the basement.
They're not letting him play it out. They're letting him sit it out.
Right. Well, he's on IR still. He's almost back. He's supposedly back, but he's got 1 more season after this. Let him play it out. Let him retire as a Shark. He's done. Who cares? It's not like they're up against the cap and they don't need him to play, so it's not a big deal. And they could just scratch him because he has a no movement clause, so they can't even put him to the minors.
Yeah.
So you just scratch him every night. That's fine. Let him play it out. I don't care. It doesn't matter. The Sharks are going anywhere this year, and it's one more season. It's better than buying him out and having just hit year after year after year. So I don't mind it.
I don't. The only time you're gonna say back with Marc-Edouard Vlasic is if he's laying on his back, sipping a martini.
Well, that's what he hurt.
Just chilling. Just chilling.
But they're not going to be able to move him. They're not going to be able to do anything with him. So there's no
and he won't
reason,
retire early or anything.
But there's no reason to buy him out either. Is my point. Just let it play out. He's fine. There was one other thing I was going to bring up here.
I didn't mean to use bad words, by the way, saying Marc-Edouard Vlasic. So sorry that you guys got triggered by that. But
speaking of IR, Will Smith was sent to IR. I don't know if you saw that today.
I did.
Yeah. He got hurt in the Tampa game, I believe. So he's eligible to be on IR as of the day after that. So he's not eligible to come back for game-wise until the game this upcoming Saturday, which fine, he was on a managed schedule anyway. And then they're able to bring, I think, Barclay Goodrow come back, and then part of the reason why I think they brought up Mook Medulin and sent down Jack Thompson so they can make a couple more moves here.
I just realized we actually don't have a roll call question, but if we did have one, I would ask, how are you guys feeling about Will Smith right now?
Sure.
That would be, well, he's got to type the whole, you want to do all that. We'll just say, hey guys, look.
Tell us what city you're watching from. And what is it?
And how are y'all feeling about Will Smith right now?
I think he's fine.
Do you think he's fine?
I think he's fine. Because this season doesn't matter. It's just
I know it doesn't matter.
I know it's not a development.
It's not about the record,
It's not a development league, but he's learning at the same time.
He's not learning as much as he would learn playing against guys that he could actually compete against. And players that are going to push him to say, you need to go faster, you need to go harder. Come on, man, move it. Let's go. And if you're playing for the Barracuda and they're winning and he's not working hard, they're going to go, dude, be a part of this now.
It could be a numbers game for the Barracuda, too, because they have to send somebody down to the ECHL if they bump him down to the AHL.
Sure, there's somebody that they would happily move to the ECHL if you're getting NHL caliber Will Smith. Come on.
I wouldn't mind if they sent him down for the Calder Cup playoffs, though.
Yeah.
Will Smith,
and
Celebrini,
and Eklund.
And Eklund. That would be filthy.
With Dickinson.
Oh, my God. Yeah. Dickinson would join. Musty would be there, probably. Oh, yeah.
I'd be pissed off, though, if I'm like the whole fourth line.
I'd be like, dude,
I got to sit?
A lot of teams do that.
I played the whole season, and you got me sitting now because of,
They have so many guys coming and going.
Yeah,
I don't think
but still.
It's not a big deal.
Whatever. Anyway. Any good comments?
Malachi, Matthew Schaefer is the best defenseman in the 2025 draft. I think Greer will tank us to try and get closer to drafting Schaefer. Kellen said more Cardwell, which I don't disagree with.
More Cardwell,
in the lineup. I think he plays very hard.
Yeah.
He's a fast, hard-hitting guy. I guess similar to Kovalenko.
And Cardwell's been in the AHL for, what, 3 seasons? I can't remember now.
That long?
I feel like he's been there for a while. I think 2 seasons with the Barracuda, I thought. Okay. I could be wrong. I'm not really up on my Barracuda guys here. But, you're about to look him up. Perfect.
I'm looking him up right
look at that hair.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
He's got some beautiful flow. Let's see. He was drafted in 2021.
Okay.
So he's only played 2 seasons with Okuda.
Yeah. So 2 seasons with exactly. I think that he's like you said, he's a fast player. He plays hard, right? He's got that desire, if you will. Mm-hmm. And I just think that a guy like Will Smith could benefit from that same attitude. And it seems like Ethan Cardwell got it from playing in the AHL. As if he had to earn his spot.
I think he's fine.
As if he had to earn the call up that he got.
You keep picking on poor Will. I don't understand
picking on him. I'm just saying. I think maybe that's where he ought to go. I think he's going to be a great player. I just think right now that's the best thing for his development. Remember when you were saying? I remember because I stuttered on this one a couple episodes ago, and I couldn't figure out why. And it was Eklund I was talking about, and it was the discussion that we had about whether he should go to Djurgården or not, back to Sweden.
What was that, 2, 3 seasons
Something like
ago?
that, yeah. And you had said, no, he needs to go back because he's going to get picked on in the AHL. He needs to go play in Djurgården, right? That was your take on it.
Yeah.
So, but it's funny that your take with Will Smith is, no, he needs to be higher up and not back. Whereas with Eklund, he was back. Now, is Eklund a good player? Is Eklund a fantastic player?
Yeah.
Do you think maybe Eklund benefited from playing in Djurgården instead? No. Lies.
No.
See? A couple seasons ago when we had that, you wouldn't agree with me there.
But Will Smith isn't Swedish.
He's not. What does that have to do with anything?
Why would he go to beer garden?
Okay, fine. Beer garden. I love it. He can't go to beer garden. He's too young.
Right. No, he's old enough. He's 21.
Will Smith.
No, I know.
Yeah,
I was talking
okay.
about Eklund.
No.
Sorry.
He can drink.
Yes. Yes.
Anyway, go ahead.
I think there was a comment last episode about my fake Joe Thornton jersey.
Yeah, there
behind
was. Yes.
We haven't told the story, I don't think.
No, you have.
Have it a long
Several
time ago?
times, actually, you've told the story, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just real quickly, it is a fake jersey.
Yes.
It is not a real jersey. Well, I mean, it's a real jersey.
We're not
but
trying to
it's-
trick anybody
No.
is the other thing here.
So
Yeah,
my dad worked in South Korea he went to a business trip in South Korea a long time ago, and I said, buy me for less than $10, find me a Sharks jersey, a Joe Thornton Sharks jersey. I want it to look as fake as possible, like a street vendor, right? Like go find one. And at that time, that's when Joe had won all these awards and was big time Joe. So he was very well known all over the world. So I figured it would be easy to find a Sharks Joe Thornton jersey. And he brought one back, and that's what this is. So, yes, it is a fake jersey, and I think it's hilarious because it came from the streets of South Korea.
Yes, and whoever it was that was picking on that one, like, whoa, what's with the fake jersey? Yeah, we're not trying to fool anyone. There's a story behind that, and it's the fact that it's fake, which is why we have it up, because that's fun.
It's funny.
Yeah.
It's the story that makes it.
On this show, we like having fun. So, it's really
Fun
must
be
be
always.
always. Absolutely. He knows what I'm talking about. Okay. Anything else that we want to say here? I mean, I know. See, Aaron's got a soccer game in 30 minutes, and he has to go to. That's why we were doing.
Whatever.
There you go. He doesn't care. You can be late.
No,
Whatever.
It starts at 9:30.
Your team's better without you, or what?
Probably.
They're okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. You the goalie?
Not tonight.
Okay. I was gonna say.
So yeah, they're better without me.
Anything? Well, why do we have green? Did we get a super chat? What happened?
Are we done?
No. Oh, maybe we're. He's saying we're done. I guess
Yeah.
maybe that means we're done. I don't know.
It's the end of the period. It's a green
It's
light.
the end. Well, so we did the whole upcoming games in the last episode. So if you're
Right.
curious about what those are, what we thought about there, what we said about it, just go back to that last episode there, and then you'll know all about that stuff. So I don't know if there's anything else really. Yeah, we're good. You know, the lights went on green behind us. That was free. But next time, if you guys want the lights to turn green, you can do that by supporting the show. Do it with the super chat function, or as you just put on the screen, Venmo at the Fin Factor. You put a comment in there, we'll read it out live on the air. And if you do it after the show is over, we'll do it on the next show. No problem. If you'd like to get something in return for supporting the show, you can go to thefinfactor.com. Check out any of the merch that we have there for sale. We have the shirts, the hats, the hoodies, windshield wipers now we have. It's amazing. I can't believe all the products that are in this store. Of course, some of them I'm lying about. You need to go check and see which ones are there. One day I'm going to end that shtick, and it's going to be really sad because, again, we like having fun on this show. I'm having fun. I don't care if you're not.
So much fun.
Here's Aaron's very in-depth plug for Blue Sky. Fire away.
Join us on Blue Sky.
All right, there you go. I feel like I'm not getting paid enough here, people.
Blue Sky is taking off. There's a lot of
is.
people that are leaving Twitter and coming over to Blue Sky.
Yes.
And what's cool about Blue Sky is you can create your own feeds. And we created one for Sharks. So if you have your home feed in Twitter, and then you have the people that you're following.
Yeah.
You can make another one of those. It's just Shark stuff. So it's more than just picking up one hashtag. Because in Twitter, you can click on a hashtag and you'll see everything that has that hashtag.
Right.
But what about people who, especially with the Sharks, who have two hashtags,
Yeah.
kind of, right? The Future's Teal, and then their old one is SJ Sharks. It picks up both of those. It picks up, if you just type San Jose Sharks without a hashtag, it'll pick that up.
Yeah.
So it puts it all in a feed so you can see other Sharks fans or other people talking about the Sharks and be able to follow along on just a Sharks feed. You can do that with all kinds of other feeds, too. So that's why I think Blue Sky is superior than Twitter.
Okay.
But there's a whole host of other reasons, but that's one of them. So we're over there. I'm pretty active on it. And super producer Jason's yawning, so we're going to wrap this up.
Well, you heard the man. So, as super producer Jason, we're going to go ahead and be done here. You good now? Yeah? He's happy?
He's awake.
Should I draw this out just a little bit longer before he's going to start rolling credits right now on
Puck
us?
at him, wake him up.
Guys,
I mean, just absolutely freaking embarrassing.
I know which one that was.
I don't know which one that was. Was that the Fragile?
Embarrassing.
Oh, embarrassing. All right. Yeah, good. All right. Well,
We don't have sound in the,
yeah.
in the studio, so we don't know.
One day we'll afford the earplug things and
Yeah,
we'll
right.
be able to hear that. So anyway, guys, again, thanks so much for tuning in. We know that we just saw us a couple of days ago. Again, nice to be back with you anyway, and we appreciate all of the people in the chat. We didn't think we were going to get that many. I think we started off with 2 people in here, and you guys, again, showed up, did your thing. Obviously, must have shared out and got to your Sharks friends and family. So again, appreciate you guys for doing that. So I guess that's it. For super producer Jason, I'm Paul.
And I'm Aaron.
And we will see you guys
Sunday night.
Sunday night. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in. If you like this episode, check out our other content, especially interviews. You can interact with us directly through social media at The Fin Factor and on Instagram at Fin Factor. And don't forget to join our live streams on YouTube.
Visit our website at thefinfactor.com, where you'll find all of our episodes as videos or podcasts. You'll also find our exclusive